Hey everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Super Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo, a game I have played many times on this channel. As you guys know, it's October as of doing this video, and as you guys know, I like to do horror-themed videos in October, specifically the Castlevania series. I've done so many Castlevania videos during the month of October over the years, and so this is quite fitting. We're going to be doing something a little bit different on this video though. What's going to happen is I'm going to play this on the hard mode, which is the second loop of the game. So basically you beat the game restarts, it's on a harder difficulty mode after that. But I'm also going to be placing some limitations on myself to make things even more interesting. Now it might not be the most enjoyable thing to watch, it might not be the most entertaining, we'll see. But I'm going to be playing this without any power-ups or upgrades. So if I get any sub-weapons, I can't use them, and I cannot power up my whip. If I power up my whip or use a sub-weapon, I have to kill myself and start that section over again. So yeah, this is actually something I wanted to do last year for Halloween in October. But it's tough. It's a really tough run, and so this is going to be interesting. I didn't feel confident enough last year to be able to do this. Not that some of my other Let's Plays were really any better, like Ghouls and Ghosts, where I just got wrecked for 2 hours straight. Feel free to check that out if you're interested in seeing me get destroyed at some Ghouls and Ghosts. But, yeah, I mean, this is a really tough run. I was not confident about it last year, and I'm still not 100% confident about it now, because there's just so many different things that can go wrong in this kind of run. So, yeah, this will be interesting. So I don't think anyone really wants to see the story. I mean, you guys have seen me play Castlevania so many times now. What we're going to do is jump in. Before I actually punch in the password to get to the second loop, though, as usual, I want to say thanks to my current Patreon backers who are backing this channel via Patreon. All those names are going to flash by the screen. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Also going to flash by the recent Super Chatters from the last 30 days from my live YouTube streams. I stream here every Thursday night on YouTube, so if you're bored, feel free to come by Thursday night and hang out. Let's go ahead and hit start. So the password here is going to be heart here and here. Switch over to the axe, and then the holy water up top here. And that basically starts us off on our second loop. There's not really anything indicating you're on the second loop, unfortunately. It's not like block 12-1 or 24-1 or something like that, or 1-1, you know, 1-1A or something like that. Also, Super Castlevania 4 only loops once. It doesn't loop just once. The difficulty only rises once. So when you play the second loop and you beat it, that's the hardest difficulty in the game. The difficulty never rises past that. And that's actually fairly typical for the Castlevania games. They don't usually rise in difficulty significantly. Usually just once, maybe twice. Actually, I'm not really sure if any of them actually raise the difficulty twice. But Super Castlevania 4 is, you know, it's in line with much of the rest of the series in that regard. So yeah, you know, what's interesting about doing this run is, you know, we're getting no whip upgrades. I can collect hearts and things like that, but the hearts don't really do me any good unless I'm playing for score or something like that. I can pick up the sub-weapons, I just can't use them, but there's actually a benefit when you're doing this kind of run. There's a benefit to not picking up the sub-weapons, and one of them is these walls. Some of these breakable walls always have meat no matter what. But some of them will actually feature a Roman numeral icon that you can pick up, and the Roman numerals allow you to fire your sub-weapons out at a faster rate. Those areas where Roman numerals would appear, if you don't have a sub-weapon, it'll actually reveal wall meat. And that's actually really important for this run, because you're more likely to take damage in this run. It's you know, your whip isn't as long in terms of its reach, and it's obviously not as powerful. Every enemy takes more hits, and also on the second loop here, you've got the opportunity to get ganged up on more enemies, especially in the second half of the game, where enemies start taking more hits. Bats start to take 2 hits, things like that, and it's very easy to just take some damage. And so you need that buffer all you can get. So like right here, this would normally be a Roman numeral, but now it's wall meat. Of course I didn't need it because my health was full, which was good. And there's probably gonna be a bat here. There we go. So yeah, one other thing you got to worry about on this run is that you want to watch out for the candles. So you're trying to attack the enemies around the candles, which isn't honestly the most fun thing you can do in a Castlevania game. I mean, a lot of the fun in Castlevania is just whipping every candle you see and keeping that flow going as you progress through the game. But on this run, you have to watch out for the candles because not any candle. There's, you know, it depends on the candle, but more often than not, you'll find that you know, candles will reveal your whip upgrades, and so that's the big thing. Is just not picking up whip upgrades. I don't really mind picking up hearts or money bags or anything like that. Like right here, it's just, you know, a big heart, which is the equivalent of 5 hearts, and that was just a money bag. Now, one thing I am going to be doing on certain stages is intentionally trying to skip certain enemies. There's some enemies you can just hop over, enemies you can just walk under, things like that. And so I'm going to be trying to do that on some of these stages later on. There's not a ton of opportunity in the game to do that, unfortunately. So, you know, playing in this style, this way, you have to take out, you know, a lot of the enemies you see. Like these guys, you can't really get over them. Maybe if they get low enough, you can jump over them, but with how the hitboxes work in this game, it's just not worth trying. You're better off just keeping your full health. But here's one guy I can skip, just like that. And then we could skip, you know, those guys too. There could be some meat right here. Knowing the meat locations is also really important. Unfortunately, I don't know all the meat locations. So there's probably a couple opportunities where I could definitely optimize my run in terms of health refills. And you know what's also fun about doing this, though, you know, this type of run has its ups and downs. I've already mentioned several of the downs, but one of the ups is that you actually have to fight the bosses now. And you know, Castlevania 4 in the you know, the gamer community, people that actually play the game regularly, one of the big complaints people have against the game is that it's just so easy once you get good at the game. I mean, on the first playthrough, or even your first few playthroughs, if you're not that familiar with the game, I don't think these are issues at all, honestly. But when you get up to a certain skill level, you just destroy Castlevania 4. And we're going to skip through the intermission sections too, just to speed this up, because this is going to be a potentially an hour-and-a-half to 2-hour long playthrough. Castlevania 4 normally takes anywhere from 40 to 60 minutes to get through, and playing it the way I am right now, it's going to take even longer to get through the game. And there are going to be deaths. This is not going to be a deathless run. We'll probably end up continuing a couple times too. So yeah, we are not aiming for perfection here. We're just trying to get to the end of the game so I can show you what, you know, doing this run is like. So we can actually skip through some of these guys here, but I'm going to go ahead and just kill this guy. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and skip the intermissions and things like that because just to save time. But yeah, again, one of the biggest complaints with Super Castlevania 4, you know, from experienced players is that it just doesn't really pose much of a challenge. Even on the second loop, it's not a very difficult game once you get decent at it. And but putting these, you know, self-imposing these limitations upon yourself can make it a much more challenging experience. Maybe not super fun, but if you're the kind of person that's a bit of a masochist and you want to just, you know, impose a challenge on yourself, well, this is the way to do it on the game. I'd say a better median is starting off just trying to do it without sub-weapons. So just get your whip fully upgraded so you don't have to avoid the candles, and then just play with your fully powered up whip. But your fully powered up whip is so good in this game that even doing that, it's really not that much of a challenge. Going farther in the opposite direction, though, is just doing the default chain whip, so your first whip upgrade, which basically has the same length as your leather whip here, but it's got a little more power to it. It's a little bit more powerful. So yeah, in Super Castlevania 4, again, the boss fights are usually... I mean, the game itself is generally pretty easy for the most part when you're familiar with the game, but the boss fights in particular are usually just walks in the park until the end of the game. You know, some people might have problems with death or the final boss rush and so forth, but much of the rest of the game people don't usually have problems with when they play this game. But playing it like this, the boss fights are completely different, including this upcoming fight, Medusa, which is one of the easiest fights normally. It's one of the toughest fights for me with just this regular whip, so let's just see what happens here. Wow, first try. Awesome. That's actually really good. Normally I get hung up there. One of the other things about this is that you'll finally experience Super Castlevania 4's brutal checkpoints. I never realized how tough the checkpoints could be in this game on you until trying to do this run. Because you get sent back quite far if you die at a boss. The game is not very lenient with checkpoints. You know, whereas in like some later Castlevania games where you might appear, like the checkpoint might be, you know, if you go off screen, you go up some stairs and go off the screen to the next screen. A lot of times that'll be a checkpoint, but in this, nope. It's usually major screen transitions, kind of like this. Like I think this would be a checkpoint right here. You would start up here. Things like that, and you'll most likely see me die later on, maybe even right here because I'm low on health. It's gonna be an extra life right here. There's gonna be some meat down here too somewhere. I always forget where it is. Because, you know, when I normally play Castlevania, any Castlevania really, I'm going for every candle that there is. You know, I'm not picking and choosing. I think I missed it, actually. Yeah, I did. It was on... Yeah, I totally missed the meat. That's okay. We got through it, and our health should be refilled now. Yep, there it is. So one of the big keys to playing Super Castlevania 4 like this and imposing these limitations on yourself is just taking it slow and easy. One of the nice things about Super Castlevania 4 for this type of run in particular is that you do get a ton of time in the game. So, you know, you can take your time. You're not rushed in Super Castlevania 4 like you might be in some other similar games of the era. So you just kind of like walk up to enemies, you take your time, and if your health is low, there's certain parts in the game that have wall meat. For instance, this part right here, we're gonna go ahead and just come into here and get our health back. I probably don't need to do this because I've only taken one hit, but you know, better safe than sorry when you're trying to do a run like this. Now there's also, if you're fancy and you wanna risk you know, death by playing with lower health, you could do some damage boosts and things like that. Like those bone pillars, you can sometimes actually just jump over them completely. I don't know if it's possible in every scenario. I haven't been able to get it to work in every scenario, but sometimes you can just jump over the bone pillars completely, which is nice. But a lot of times if you try it, you'll end up damage boosting off into the opposite direction, which in and of itself can work to save time. It's something that speedrunners do when they play this game, but I really don't feel like it's worth it for this kind of run that we're doing. Basically a no power-up run. you know, especially if you're trying to one credit clear the game on this quote-unquote mode, you're probably better off taking your time instead of trying to rush through it. Now, there are going to be instances, like on this section, what we're going to do is jump over... oops, crap. I just picked up the cross, which is okay, or the boomerang, but I didn't want to do that because now that's going to forfeit some of my free wall meats I could potentially have gotten later on. Actually, we're going to go ahead and kill this guy, just like so. Oh man, every time I do a video on this game, I can't help but gloat about the visuals. This is a very, very early Super Nintendo game. One of the earliest on the system, period. And it's, in my eyes, it's still one of the best looking games on the system. There's so much variety featured in Super Castlevania 4, and this section right here is a really good example of that. From the varied use of, you know, texture designs or art designs on the platforms themselves to the transparent waterfall and things like that. It's just really fantastic stuff. Alright, so we're on to the next section. I don't think we're gonna have too much trouble here, but we'll see. So in this part right here, you want to just sit, and this goes for a normal run too. You just want to sit right here and wait for these blocks to fall, and then jump over. There's going to be a bunch of these floating eyeball guys. This is basically where they start appearing throughout the game, and they do appear later on in the game as well. And we're just going to sit here. Now, when you're playing on this, you know, the second loop, and you're playing with just your regular whip, a lot of these enemies, you know, they take a very specific amount of hits, and a lot of times the amount of hits they take is more than what it is normally when you're playing the game normally. Like these floating eyeballs, they, I think they take 2 hits now with your whip, but later on they start taking 3 hits, and, you know, same with enemies like the bats. Normally they take 1 hit. Later on, they're gonna start taking 2 hits. I actually got lucky there because that was a heart and not a whip upgrade. If it was a whip upgrade, I would have just killed myself. So here's actually the checkpoint. That was a major screen change right there, and this is pretty much where we start back out at if we die from here on out on the level. Even if we die at the boss fight, we got to come all the way back here. And, you know, I think normally these checkpoints probably wouldn't be an issue because you're playing fully powered up, you've got sub-weapons and things like that, and Simon, your character here, is just a beast with his powered up whip. But since we don't have a powered up whip, yeah, it's a little bit tougher. So we're gonna go ahead and just skip this guy. This is another one of those sections where you can just skip the enemies. Fortunately, there's going to be a drumstick right here. There we go. Get a little bit of our health back. I think we'll be okay on this boss. One of the big issues with this boss, though, is, for one, there's a ton of slowdown. 2, the hitboxes are massive on these bosses, and you can actually get hit even if you're not touching the boss. That's how large the hitboxes are. Particularly on one of them that shoots just like a straight... you know, he's got like this purple fire breath that he spews out. So this guy right here's got a 3-way shot, and that's fine, but this guy right here, you don't want to get anywhere close to that. And you really want to wait until his trap is shut completely. Because you can get screwed by that really awful hitbox. We're just gonna sit over here. And the fireballs can be destroyed. I'm just gonna take my time. We've got a ton of time here, so... Oh, that's not good. Ooh, that was close. Yeah, so if you get knocked off from this middle platform, you can actually get knocked off completely and die. Alright, we're just gonna take our time now. Just gonna sit back. This guy is really no threat from a distance. My big thing here is I just don't want to die, because I don't want to do that section all over again, so it's best to just take your time. So pretty good so far. We haven't actually died yet. We got really close there. There was a bad little trap there. The guy hit me, and I was like, you know, I should probably just sit here and tank the next hit, because if I try to move over to the right, I'll probably get hit again, and it could push me off the ledge completely. So that was kind of like the decision I had to make on the fly. It's like, do I keep moving, or do I just tank another hit and try to do the rest of the fight without taking any more damage? Because if I took any more damage, I would die. So these skeletons, you can duck under their attacks, and there's a lot of enemies in the game where you can duck under attacks. The Axe Armor Knights also will throw axes at you, and you guys haven't actually seen them yet, but they become very, very common in the second half of the game, and you can duck under their projectile attacks as well. So there's a lot of enemies that have, I would say, attacks that go high, which means you can duck under them. We're gonna go ahead and attack these candles here, and just let these things disappear. If I see a whip power up, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just let it disappear completely, because, I mean, I'll let it disappear completely if there are enemies on the screen, because if there's enemies on the screen, that means I have the potential to get hit and then just get knocked back into it. And again, if I do that, I have to kill myself. That's one of the rules I've set here. There's meat right there. We had full health though, so we didn't actually need it, which was nice. So sections like this, you just really want to take slowly. And it's really how you want to deal with these sections anyway, if you're going to get here normally. If you're rushing this part, that skeleton there a lot of times likes to hug that edge, and you could jump down to get hit by him. There's going to be some bats right there. What's interesting about the bats is that they have a tendency of going wherever you are in the screen. And this guy, what you want to do, if you can, is try to attack him, then just attack up. Unfortunately, his RNG is kind of a pain. Sometimes he just sits there, and if he just sits there, that's when he's the biggest pain to deal with. Got him. He's one of the toughest boss fights too, I'd say, with just the whip, because he's fairly random in his patterns and his attacks and things like that. And every time you hit him, projectiles come down from the top of the screen, and you have to destroy them. There's not usually enough room to just dodge them. Alright, so Medusa heads are going to come out from the left and right. Now there's something interesting here I'm going to show you, and one of the nice things about playing this with just the leather whip. So this part right here, normally if you're all the way down, if you touch those spikes, you will die. But the thing is, with the leather whip, you actually can't touch the spikes. So you can actually just hang all the way down and not worry about dying like you normally would. So that's kind of cool. One of the very few parts of the game where it might actually be easier with the leather whip. Alright, so now for some background graphic awesomeness. This was really amazing to look at back in 1991. when this game came out in North America. I did get to play this game just shortly after it came out, and I was just... Granted, I was only like 9 years old when this game came out, but I was still absolutely floored by this game in particular. I mean, the Super Nintendo to my 9-year-old mind was really impressive, nonetheless. But this game in particular was just crazy with its visuals and whatnot. Ooh, lucky there. There's supposed to be some meat here somewhere. And did I miss it? I don't think I did. Is it this one? Nope. Is it that one? Wow, we missed the meat! Completely missed it. Alright, this is gonna be tough then. You know what I might do? I'm just gonna go ahead and kill myself. For one, that actually allows me to lose my, my cross. And I knew the checkpoint was right there anyway, so I figured, you know, it's better to just, you know, lose a life and not have to restart the entire section. And then give myself the advantage, too, of losing my sub-weapon, which, again, gives me the opportunity to get some extra wall meat, which is going to be more important in these upcoming stages than it was before. It definitely helps early on, particularly right before the Medusa boss fight. But later on in the game, it becomes even more important as the levels get longer and harder, and the enemies start taking more damage to kill. But also, this boss fight is, I don't know, I'm still a little iffy on this boss fight. Sometimes I can do it without a problem. Sometimes I have to do it multiple times. And look at that, we were able to just walk right through that. Normally that doesn't happen. Normally you have to wait. Now there is a drumstick here as well, so you can get a little bit of your health back. I'm gonna go ahead and attack this guy from the bottom. You can't actually see him, but he's actually there, and it does register if you try to hit him. So our glorious meat would be right here, but I knew that meat was there. I knew I wasn't gonna take a hit to get to this point, but even still, I'd rather play it safe right now. Safe. Rather just be safe. Better safe than sorry. Alright, so basically this guy will jump up to the top of the screen, blocks will fall down. He'll also spew a block at you, and it's not too hard to avoid that block. Usually he just kind of like chucks it on the, you know, closer to the ground. And a lot of times it doesn't go all the way across the screen, kind of like that. See, I've taken a lot of unnecessary hits too, which you really have to focus in this game when you're playing against these bosses in this this game mode. All right, I'm gonna skip through that again. I love the intermission sequences though in this game. I just, you know, they made really good use of the Super Nintendo's built-in hardware effects. You know, the mode 7, for instance, which is used on the intermission or the map screen. The map screen is really cool in this game too. We were actually talking about it on stream a little while ago about how just, I don't know, fleshed out it is. It's very detailed and it's very cool. Okay, this is not good actually. Now there is going to be meat here somewhere. I don't think it's on this stretch, but I'm just trying to go for it anyway. Alright, we're probably gonna end up dying here. And I think this is actually a knife right here. Oh, no, it's not. Maybe the knife is up top. Maybe there isn't any meat on this section. Maybe it's just the next section. And we're dead. Yep, I knew that was gonna happen. Yeah, the thing about the little hunchbacks in this is that they are really, really small. And so if you're just playing without any power-ups, it's difficult to hit them. And they can just gang up on you really, really quickly. So, man's worst enemy, a frog. Actually, let's check over here. Wow. We're just taking a lot of hits on this section. That's not good. Not good at all. I could have sworn there was a drumstick here somewhere, but apparently I was wrong. I know there is one on the next screen. Once we get the screen changeover to the next section of the level. Yeah. Wow, that's not good. So, 2 deaths back to back on this same section. Yeah, part of my problem is I was just experimenting. I was trying to attack the candles, which gave the enemies more time to just appear on screen. So once, like, the harpies and hunchbacks are there, I don't even know if they're hunchbacks in this one. I know they, you know, you can call them flea men in certain games. The designs of them in this one is more akin to the Japanese Castlevania 3. And I don't even think they were called flea men in that one, because there were actual separate flea men in the game. Wait, no, there weren't. Wow, I'm getting my Castlevanias mixed up now. That's unlike me. Very, very unlike me. Castlevania is one of the most played gaming series for me. It's one of my absolute favorites. And if you guys are new to this channel, you're still watching by this point, I've got tons of Castlevania content on here. So if you like that, feel free to browse through my my videos. I think I actually have a Castlevania playlist on my main channel page, so you guys can check that out if you want to see all the Castlevania videos I have done here. Mostly playthroughs and things like that, which is what my channel mostly focuses around anyway. These days, anyway. Alright, so there is going to be some meat up here. Just need to take our time, take out these bats. This is actually the last portion of the game where the bats only take 1 hit. Now, where's the meat? It's one of these. There it is. We actually didn't really need it, because we had over half of our health left, and, you know, once we get through this doorway, it's a brand new level, we get all of our health back. But this is where the game starts to become much more tricky. Much more tricky. I mean, normally, the difficulty spike from here on out really isn't that bad if you're playing the game normally. But if you're playing it like this, where you're doing no power-ups, it's, the difficulty spike is real. See, like I was talking about earlier, the bats will pretty much just fly to wherever you are, and what I found is that, they'll pretty much just, if you just sit on the, you know, the floor, they'll fly low. And, I'd really like to kill this guy, please. Thank you. So one thing you can do is you can jump and sort of like bait the bat high, like this, and then just duck under the bat. And so we're going to be using that to our advantage as this playthrough continues, pretty much from here on out. So if you see a bat, you can just jump high, and then you won't have to worry about the bat, you know, slamming right into you or something like that. It's actually a trick you can use in, you know, some other two-dimensional games, like Ninja Gaiden's a good example. The bats in that game, the original Ninja Gaiden for NES, I mean, the bats will appear wherever you are on the screen, so, or however high you are on the screen. So, you know, when you push the screen forward and the bat appears in that game, it'll appear wherever you are in the screen. So if you jump up high and then push the bat into view, it'll magically appear high, and then you can just fall below it and not have to deal with it. And that's kind of the same concept in this as well, except in this one you can actually see the bat. It just remains perched up there, but there is like an invisible line that once you touch that line, it activates the bat. It basically triggers the bat and it comes after you. And we're gonna go ahead and take advantage of this secret here. Normally there's lots of goodies in here, but we only care about the meat right there, which just gave us all of our health back. Normally that meat is only about, it's probably about 3/4 of your health. Something like that. Alright, these... Oh! I have to kill myself now. Well, we just messed up, guys. So that's what I'm talking about. You gotta watch out for the candles, and now we have to kill ourselves. It's a lot easier when you've got spikes or endless pits around, but so that was a really bad time to do that. And the checkpoint is just right back here as well. But this is the checkpoint for up until the next, like, major screen change with a background change. So this is probably one of the more brutal parts of the game, unfortunately, in terms of, you know, concerning checkpoints. And unfortunately, this is closed. It might reopen if you continue, and you gotta do the whole level over again. I think it does reopen. But since we don't have a sub-weapon, we'll get to take advantage of getting some extra health that we normally wouldn't be able to get. There we go. You know, it's funny how, like, easy those things are to deal with normally, but when you don't have sub-weapons, you don't have an axe or a cross or boomerang, it's a lot more challenging to deal with those things, because you actually have to be accurate with your main whip, which can be easier said than done when your whip isn't fully powered up. Some bats up there, and we go ahead and just let this disappear. Bam! So there's meat that normally wouldn't be there. Normally that would be a Roman numeral. So these like specter-looking things, I don't even know what you would call them, they sort of bounce around the screen at a 45-degree angle, so wherever they touch, they'll just keep moving at an angle. And so you can kind of control them like it's Breakout or Pong or something like that. And these guys right here, these ghosts, they'll basically disappear, and then they'll just reappear exactly where they were, unless you went up to a platform higher than them, then they'll follow you. Some more bats right there. Alright, let's hope we don't have too much trouble with these next couple of sections, because, remember, the checkpoint's all the way back, and so if I die, we've got to do this whole section over again. So, like, this isn't a checkpoint here either. So we have to be really careful here. The thing is, this is the toughest part on this level, I would say. Normally, it's not really tough at all, because you've got sub-weapons, but if you do something wrong here, it's instant death. That bat is one of the biggest issues. As is that skeleton sometimes. We're gonna go ahead and just sort of like tank here. Just like that. I think that's probably the best way to deal with that section. And if I really wanted to, I could come back up, because there is gonna be some meat here. There it is. But you could just basically tank, let those coffins just chase you, and then once you've cleared out the room, go get some health. Although that was kind of pointless because I took another hit, and thus my life is not full. Okay, this is tough right here too. Because these guys just walk right up to you, and it's hard to deal with them when they're that close to you. And you're higher up than them. If you're on the same level, it doesn't really matter if they get close to you, but if they're on a different level, mainly below you, it's difficult to deal with them. Technically, what I could do is just let my whip hang out like that. Something to keep in mind, but when you do that, it does do damage. You know, your still whip does actually dish out damage to enemies. It's just very, very light damage. Alright, I think there's actually going to be some meat here. Very nice. Alright, one of the nice things is that there is going to be an extra life up here. And so this is one of the few points in the game where, as long as you don't die between the checkpoint and the extra life, you can keep collecting that extra life on every attempt. So even if you're having a hard time at the boss fight, you need to restart the level over, or not the level, but the section over, you can just keep collecting that extra life over and over and over again. So unfortunately in this mode, these dancers, they come out quite frequently, and it's very easy to get ganged up by them. See, that's not good. Just one more hit, and then we are dead. Alright, so the extra life is going to be right here. Now, taking all those hits is going to put us into a bad spot in regards to this boss fight, though. So we'll see what happens here. I'm just going to sit up here at first. It's good to just use these platforms against this boss. And just take your time. Normally this boss is just a cakewalk with sub-weapons and whatnot and a fully powered up whip. But it can actually be tricky, playing it like I am right now. Oh, good. So we're about halfway through the game and we're already 45 minutes into the video, just about. So you can see how much longer this takes playing it like this. If you know, if I was playing the game normally, we would probably be close to the end of the game by now. So the game takes a good bit longer to go through when you're playing it like this. Again, you die a lot. I've died several times already. And so there's that too. You end up having to play through sections multiple times, and the sections are fairly long in this game. Alright, almost done with this first section. The next section is actually going to be a vertical section. Since we've got a bunch of health, we can pretty much just fall through. And, you know, I'm so used to just falling through like this when I play this section that I didn't realize there's actually some meat right there. I never knew that because I just pass right through this section every time I play the game. So that's really good to know if you're trying to play it like this. Now this part's kind of tricky too, with just your regular whip. See? Very difficult to time that. Normally you've got sub-weapons or a much longer whip, but with your standard leather whip, it's a lot tougher to deal with this section and these red skeletons. What's nice about the red skeletons, though, is that once you've knocked them down once, they only take one hit to knock down again. There we go. Alright, new checkpoint. There's gonna be some bats right here. Let's jump over them. All right. There's gonna be some meat here, just like that. There's also a drumstick on the next section. We're just gonna skip that guy up there. And the drumstick's actually right here. But we're not gonna need it. And looks like we just despawned that insect. Millipede? Centipede? Whatever you want to call it. So these things just drop as you get close to them, as you can see. So if you're new to Castlevania 4, there are a few gimmicks in the game like that. And you get close to something, and you know, something falls down on you, or, you know, a bat comes flying at you, or, you know, things like that. It's all pretty basic stuff, though. Like, there was that thing under the carpet on the previous section. If you didn't duck, it would push you up into the spikes. Alright, boss fight. Alright, so this guy can be tricky. Let's see what he does first. Is he gonna throw his axe at me? Oh, he's gonna do that attack first. Okay. So when he does this attack, you want to just wait for the fire to get close to you and then jump over it. Sometimes you can just attack him down diagonally, like that as you come down. But you gotta watch out because you might get hit by him. If you get too close to him and or just touch him, you'll get hit. And right here, once he's got his sword out, you can just wail on him. That's actually really interesting. It looks like if he pulls his sword out, not his sword, his shield, and you hit the shield, like he gains health back. I saw his life bar go back up. Like he went down and back up and down and back up, and I've never noticed that before. Because normally when you fight these bosses, you've got subweapons, you got Roman numerals, you know, you're just absolutely demolishing these bosses when you play normally. But when you're playing like this, you don't have that luxury. You actually have to play the boss fights. See, like I mentioned earlier, these eyeballs now take 3 hits. Alright, so this is one of the parts in the game where I do an intentional damage boost. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get past this section. Sure, we're gonna take out these eyeballs first. Always want to take out these guys first if you can. And we're gonna hit this guy from the top right, and then just damage boost over like that, as you just saw. However, there is some meat here, so what I'm gonna do is just take my time here and just take these guys out one by one. There we go, just like that. Very risky on that section, but I found that it's much harder to deal with that if you try to, you know, defeat the guys normally. It's not that bad on, you know, if you're playing with power-ups, you know, you've got a fully powered up whip or something like that. But without that luxury, it's much, much more dangerous. There's going to be a power-up there. We can use those, the screen-clearing items. I'm fine with that. They only appear, you know, a handful of times throughout the course of the game. There's some more meat. So we're actually looking good. I know we've lost a lot of lives so far overall. But so far, you know, all things considered, I think we're doing okay. We haven't continued yet, which is nice. Looks like on the, you know... Oh, geez, man. He respawned. See, this guy's low, so, like, he'll just slam right into you, unfortunately. Alright, we're gonna end up dying. Yep, there's no surviving that now. Yeah, those oh, man, look at that. Those bats really got the best of me. So we gotta do that damage boost all over again. This is what I was talking about with the checkpoints in the game. On the second half of the game in particular, you know, it's harder to deal with them because the sections get harder. There we go. Oh no, you gotta be kidding me! What was that? What just happened? That was some crap. I have never seen that happen before. Alright, so now this is gonna be really tough. Well, I'm just gonna kill myself, get a game over. So that's our first game over, unfortunately. I don't want to be stuck on the last section with 0 lives in my bag. Which means we'd have to do the entire stage over again if I died later on. And we weren't even halfway through the level yet, so... Well, so much for a 1cc. I was actually, you know, it was... Things were looking up there in terms of a 1cc, 1 credit clear. That would have been pretty cool. It would have been the first time I've done that on, you know, this hard mode, no power-up style of PlayStation. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is leave... When I get up to that, you know, the area with the 2 bone dragons, I think I'm gonna just leave that eyeball on screen, like I've done before. And I think if you leave the eyeball on screen, the second bone dragon doesn't spawn. Which that'll make life easier if he doesn't spawn. I mean, that's another way to deal with this right here. Just doing it like this. Alright, so leave that guy there. Oh no, he still spawns out. That is weird. Alright, let's hope for the best this time. I'm used to that happening. I've never actually gotten all the way across with just a leather whip. I've always had to take a hit, unfortunately. Alright, so there is going to be another drumstick on this next section. So So we'll get a little bit of health back, and we might be able to do the boss fight without dying. We'll see. Just depends on the RNG, the randomness of the boss fight. Yeah, Super Castlevania 4 is not the kind of game where bosses do the same thing, you know, every time you get to them. They'll mix up their patterns seemingly at random, with no little rhythm or rhyme to it. Man, I am so tired right now. This is actually taking it out of me. I worked all night tonight, and you know, it was a 10-hour shift for me today, and wasn't really feeling that well today either, but for some reason I came home and I was like, you know, I need to get this recorded. It's got to be done this week, and the week is getting close to ending. So I went ahead and fired it up, and here we are now. But the fact is, I am quite tired now. My eyes are starting to burn up. Usually the hour-long mark is kind of like my breaking point when I do these Let's Plays these days. I don't have the endurance I used to. Alright, so with Frank here, or Frankenstein's monster, you want to just attack his potions as they fall down like this. Now he's got a variety of potion types. The pinkish one's the best one, because you can just attack it like this. Wow, he hasn't done a single blue one yet. Wow, that was a perfect scenario. So he usually mixes up those potions with different colored ones, and they have different properties. One of them splits out into a spread shot, which is very difficult to avoid. So that was actually really, really good. But yeah, like I said, I was really tired today already. I wasn't feeling that good either. You know, it's past the second half of the week now, unfortunately, and you know, I'm not ahead of schedule in my Let's Plays like I have been in the previous month. September, I was ahead of Let's Plays all month long. But October, unfortunately, I am not, and I've been recording them, you know, one by one as the weeks go on, and that's not always the best thing to do, because sometimes, you know, it becomes stressful because it gets closer to Sunday when I'm posting these. Holy crap, dude, really? And I don't have any content. It's just like, oh, geez. But the thing is, normally it's not a big deal, but this weekend I have plans. I'm actually going out of town on Saturday in particular, and so, you know, this needs to be recorded well before then. But again, I haven't been feeling that well either, so that's another issue. So, but we're here, we're doing this, and hopefully it's not too horribly boring for you guys watching. But if you guys hear me, you know, slur my speech or stutter or things like that, that's pretty much why. I'm pretty tired and not feeling all that well right now. Alright, so this is actually really tough here. Normally that skeleton doesn't come all the way up like that. But you want to come up here because there's a drumstick which gives you some of your health back. This next section is going to be pretty tough too. We'll see what happens here. There's going to be bats, there's going to be gold skeletons. Wow, lucky there. Alright, good deal. Alright, this is a new checkpoint, I believe. Alright, we're just gonna skip that. And much like before, we're just gonna sort of tank our way up, because that coffin was chasing us. Alright, this is a new checkpoint as well. We just want to hop our way across. Now what's actually really interesting about these things is you can actually destroy those blocks, and I know people that have trouble with that section, but they don't know that you can actually destroy those blocks as they fall down. We're going to come in here. This is another secret area. And I think, yeah, the food is right there. Okay. Right in the beginning, just like the first one. These caves sort of suck you in, and they, you know, you're stuck when they're sucking, and so you gotta watch out for that. Okay, I don't think there is a single weapon upgrade in here. I think this is just like a room full of money, basically. So we're not gonna have to worry as badly with, you know, these candles. But it's still a tough section nonetheless with your leather whip. And if you haven't gotten a game over yet, this is a good place to grind out for points to potentially get another extra life. Now we're actually, you know, as shameful as it is to have, you know, basically forced the game over upon myself, we're getting close to the end of the game. You know, we're about 75% through the game now. Maybe even 80%, depending on how you look at it. So, you know, from that angle, I'm not really doing that bad. I'm actually probably doing better than I normally do when I do this run. Like I said, this is a tough run. It is not easy in the slightest. Even if you take your time, there's still a lot of things that can just creep up on you or catch you off guard out of nowhere. And this boss can be tricky as well. Every time you hit him, he basically spews this gold off to the side. Now you want to get him to one side of the screen, and then when he gets ready to charge up, jump. And he'll pretty much go to wherever you are in the screen. And this is how you sort of control this boss fight. Boss fights like this aren't that bad because you can really control the flow of them. He's gonna stop, jump. Let's go ahead and let him do it again. Alright, jump. Because I was higher up on the screen, he flew high. If I just stood where I was, he would just dive bomb me, and pretty much hit me, guaranteed. Alright, so this part's tricky too. Except now they actually drop gold pieces, and the gold pieces do hurt you. Fortunately, they don't seem to do that much damage, but still, if you're low on health by this point, these guys can be a major pain to deal with as well. There we go. Good fight. First try. Alright, so on to the clock tower with the amazing Bloody Tears remix. Basically one of the main themes from Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. This level definitely has some tough sections as well. And as much as possible, you want to try to take these guys out from below. You'll notice that there's those gray blocks there. The gray blocks are the blocks that fall apart. So you can't just sit on them. You have to, the second you touch them, you pretty much have to keep moving. So what we're gonna do is there's gonna be a guy up here. We want him to jump down, like so. And I want to take him down, take him out from below, like this. Oh! That was my fault, but I'm blaming the slowdown on that one. I mistimed my jump because the game just was super slow. One of the negative aspects to Castlevania 4 in general is it does have a lot of slowdown. It's not unbearable, but if you're not in tune with the slowdown, it can catch you off guard sometimes, and you can get punished for it. When there's a lot of things moving in the backgrounds, like you've got these cogs constantly, you know, swirling around and moving, that can be a problem, and slow down the game. Super Nintendo just can't keep up. Slowdown was an issue that plagued a lot of Super Nintendo games, honestly. But, you know, growing up, I had a Nintendo Entertainment System. There was a lot of slowdown in a lot of the games I played in general. So when the 16-bit generation came around and there was still a lot of slowdown, it never really bothered me. And even there was lots of 32-bit generation, 32-bit era games, Sony PlayStation, Sega Saturn and whatnot, that also had lots of slowdown. And it's just, slowdown is not something that has bothered me like it seems to bother some people these days. It's just something we lived with, you know? And in games like Castlevania 4, you don't have slowdown all the time, but there's usually key parts where it's a common thing. Alright, so this is going to be tough here with these skeletons that are skeleton knights that are up here, but I'm going to try to use my usual technique here. Wow, he just ran right into me. He doesn't normally do that. He even like jumped off the ledge too, which was interesting. That's the RNG I was talking about, you know, the randomness to this game. See, normally if you had a projectile here, you could just throw it across and take that skeleton out. But unfortunately we don't. Oh, really? I thought I jumped up high enough to grab onto the stairs. So one thing you can do, if you time it right, is you can actually jump over them from that hook. Alright, let me just tank past these guys. And this is one of those, you know, fairly tricky sections I was talking about. Just like that. That's how you want to do it, if you can. Alright, this section could be really tough too, because you've got these hooks constantly rotating around, but you've got a lot of enemies that you need to attack from the opposite side of the screen. And you'll have to time your attacks as to not hit the rings. And that can be quite tricky. Ooh, I got lucky there. I chose to just avoid that guy completely. There's another drumstick, that's good. Got a little bit of health back. I think there's gonna be one more right before the boss fight. I'll go ahead and let that appear, so I don't have to deal with it. I mean, if I wanted to, I could try to avoid this guy, but it's almost not worth it. See, just like that. Now I don't have a choice. Look at that. So that's one way to deal with that. Normally what I do is I stay on that lower left platform and I just attack him. I just poke him. And, you know, I have to wait for the rings to pass me, otherwise I'll latch onto the rings and potentially fall down into the pit and die. So there are multiple ways to deal with a lot of these sections when you're playing with just the whip only. The leather whip only in particular. So this mummy will pretty much just appear wherever he wants, and he's got a couple of different attack patterns. One is he just throws a bunch of fireballs that sort of curve back. When he does this attack, and especially if he's on the left-hand side of the screen, you can just do this and attack diagonally down. And when he's doing that fireball attack, you can just really sit right in front of him, just outside his reach. So that's actually a really good pattern. And hopefully... Nope. See, I'm not going to worry with this one. Doing the diagonally downwards attack is too risky for that. Now, if he does his other attack in that position, you have to duck. Otherwise, you might get hit. Alright, it's almost dead. Alright, we got this. Alright, that's that. Always a cool boss fight, like, you know, fighting on the clock's arms always makes you feel like you're actually kind of high up, which is really neat. I like it when old school games kind of like give you that feeling that, you know, you're actually higher up in the air than you would normally feel. Alright, so for this section, we're just going to skip through, like we did on previous vertical sections like this. We're going to use the shortcut here I always use and hold up. Something I never really explained is that you can actually, you know, grab on the staircases in this. This hasn't really been like a tutorial Let's Play, you know, like they usually are. Not in the traditional sense. I'm not here explaining all the, like, the little nuances of Castlevania 4. I've got multiple playthroughs of Castlevania 4 on my channel that talk about details like that. This is more or less just showing you what it takes to get through this on the hard mode with the leather whip only, and giving you strategies for that kind of run. But I haven't really been explaining a whole lot of, you know, normal Castlevania 4 nuances. Gonna skip that guy completely. You could probably skip the skeleton too. That was risky because he could have thrown a bone up at me and I would have gotten knocked off those stairs and I would have had to do this whole section over. So as you can see, these stairs, it's a one-time chance kind of thing. You don't get a second chance on these things. So you've got to get it right on your first try. So back in the day, we died here quite a bit, learning this level. It's probably one of the toughest levels in the game to actually learn and get used to. So Castlevania 4 does have a difficulty spike. It's not known for its difficulty, but there are some tricky sections that will take practice if you know, you're a first-time player. Especially if you're not a super experienced player. Someone that's like really beaten a lot of these Castlevania games, or action games in general. You might play a lot of games, but if you haven't beaten a lot of games, then, you know, some of these sections will probably give you trouble on your first time. Let's go ahead and just come up top here. Whoa, okay, never mind. So we're actually really close to the end of the game now. You know, we're about an hour and 21 minutes in, where it's probably going to be an hour and 40 by the time we're done because of these boss fights. I'm definitely going to have trouble with some of these boss fights coming up. Alright, so these next two bosses, this guy right here, Slogra, and the next guy appeared in this game for the first time, but they were later brought back in the Metroidvania series, so Castlevania Symphony of the Night and on, you see these guys making an appearance. And Slogra in particular, he's never nearly as tough as he is in this game, which was always kind of surprising to me, because he was one of the toughest boss fights for us when we were younger. Oh, that was bad. That was my fault. Yeah, this isn't looking good, actually. Even though he's only got 2 hit points left, it can come down to the last one. That's it. We got lucky. I was taking a lot of unnecessary hits because I was misjudging my attacks. Where I would hit him and attack him, and it would do a successful hit, but I wouldn't predict that it was going to be a successful hit. And so I tried attacking again, even though I already hit him successfully. He flew off screen, but because I tried attacking again, my whip is on screen, and he just falls right down on top of me. And I take unnecessary hits like that. So this guy actually starts to pose a challenge as well, playing like this. Man, and I am just burnt out by this point. I'm having a hard time just focusing. My head's also aching like crazy. I've had a headache all night, too. That was mainly why I haven't been feeling well. So I got this massive headache, and I've already taken medication for it. And the pain is just not going away. Alright, so the next fight is Death himself. And Death is by far, I'd say, the toughest boss fight with, you know, just the leather whip only. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any other meat here. And that's it, yeah, so... You know, it's funny, leading up to the previous boss, they give you a ton of meat, but against Death, they barely give you anything, so... We're not gonna get this, unfortunately. Yep. Ah, so close. That would have felt really good if I was able to get that without dying. So ideally what you want to do is you want to try to attack death when you know a sickle's about to come out. Because then a lot of times what you'll do is you'll just end up destroying the sickle. So you don't have to worry about it, you know, hurting you or doing damage. But if you don't time it, then you just get wrecked. Kind of like that. And just like that. And I think one more hit's gonna kill us anyway. I think he's probably gonna do 4 hit points. Nope, 3. I'm just gonna kill myself. I'll try it again. Always time my first hit. Wow, I missed the sickle. I got lucky. He didn't do his second cycle with the that whole gravity attack or whatever you want to call it. Well, that's good. At least we got past death, and this is the end of the game, guys. We've got Dracula, and we'll see if we can do this on our first try without using another continue. So we're going to use this secret area here. We need to make sure that we jump over. There is an endless pit there in the middle that you can't see, so you gotta watch out for that. Now, fortunately, Dracula's fight does have a couple of opportunities to get some of our health back. But the second half of the boss fight can be tough with these fire enemies he spews out. So what we're gonna do is just hit him one by one. Kind of like so. So the idea is to hit him a couple times and then jump over his projectile and attack it diagonally, not diagonally, but just attack it vertically, just like so. And this is what gives you some meat. You attack that orb, it'll give you some health back. And this is the second cycle, or the second phase. Cycle's not the right term. Cycle is what the term you use for repeat patterns, basically. But this is the second phase of the boss fight, where he brings these guys out, and it's good to try to get them on to one side of the screen and just attack them both at once. But you gotta watch out, because I'm not paying attention about where they're spawning from, and the fire on the ground that comes out does hurt you, and we're gonna die. Wow. The last time I did this, I had no problems with that, so that was disappointing, but that's okay. Alright, this is the last phase, and I'd say the easiest part. Just avoid these vertical lasers, and that's pretty much it. Alright, there we go. We did it, guys. It took us 90 minutes, but we did it. Like I said, this run is tough. It's tricky, and it's time-consuming as well. And it will wear on you. I mean, we continued at least twice, maybe 3 times. And, you know, just an hour into this playthrough, I was already getting... sort of like zoning out and not focusing, not paying attention. The first few stages on the run were pretty good, actually. I was pretty happy with that. A lot of times I have trouble with, you know, the Medusa fight, and a couple of other fights like that I have trouble with usually. But we didn't have trouble there in this playthrough, but we did have trouble, unfortunately, on some other parts. But overall, I mean, it wasn't too bad. There have been times where I've had to continue like 10 times to get through this, with whip only on the, no subweapons, whip only on the hard mode, so... and of course the game shows off what it's like to play the game normally! With power-ups and a powered-up whip. But there you have it, guys, Super Castlevania 4 on hard mode with the leather whip only. I'm glad to have this one out of the way. It's something that I wanted to do last year. I was practicing it last year, but I just wasn't feeling the confidence to do it. I didn't feel well practiced enough, and I still don't, but the thing is with this run, I don't think I'll ever be well practiced enough because there's so much to memorize in terms of, you know, enemy placements and things like that. You don't really think of enemy placements that much when you play this game because you just wreck everything. You just slice and dice right through everything in this game normally. But when you're playing without power-ups, it doesn't work like that. Like, enemies actually take longer to kill. Halfway through the game, bats start taking 2 hits. You can't just sit there and whack every bat you see because you're not going to be able to whip them twice to kill them. So you have to jump over them. Boss fights like this, you actually have to play to their patterns, which you don't before. You know, you could just play highly offensively on when you play this game normally, but you can't do that on, you know, leather whip only, on especially on hard mode. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever be super consistent with this run, because there's also the randomness too. You know, the boss fights, you might get a bad pattern when you get to a boss fight. Again, I'll use that skeleton, that skull boss as an example. If he just sits there in the middle of the screen, good luck, you're dead. He's got to bounce on top of you, and that makes life a whole lot easier. So, you know, between the length of the game, how slow you have to take the game, and the randomness to a lot of the boss fights, I don't think I'll ever be super consistent at this run. But that is it. I mean, there you have it. I mean, it is interesting to actually to try to tackle this at least once. And if you're a Castlevania 4 expert, I do recommend giving it a try. For everyone else, it's not even really worth bothering with. But for people that like to give themselves a good challenge, and I think it's pretty cool to try. I don't know how much more often I will try this run again in the future, because I spent so long just trying to get comfortable enough to be able to do this Let's Play that I'm kind of burnt out. I kind of just want to run through the game again immediately after and just play the game normally, just so I can, you know, feel good about Castlevania 4 again. But I hope this made for an entertaining Let's Play. I know it got silent quite a bit. Again, I'm tired, my head hurts, and I also really needed to focus. Definitely needed to focus a lot on certain parts. But I hope it still made for an entertaining Let's Play nonetheless. You guys got to see something new. I know I've done Castlevania 4 videos a bunch on this channel. There was even a live stream a couple months ago I did, where I played through this and Dracula X on Super Nintendo back-to-back on the same stream. And, so, I've got a lot of instances of Castlevania 4 gameplay on here. And this is yet another. So... But yeah, man, October, we're going to be doing some other horror-themed Let's Plays, obviously. I do have some other Castlevania games up my sleeve, so hope you guys will watch out for those. I also have a very specific Castlevania knockoff on a very particular Sega system that I've gotten a lot of requests to do. It's not a favorite of mine at all, really, to say the least, but you guys have been requesting it, and I finally gotten to the point where, you know, I can finish it consistently. So we're going to be doing that later this month. We're going to be doing some other Castlevania live streams as well, trying to figure out which Metroidvania I'd like to tackle this month. Potentially Dawn of Sorrow, maybe Symphony of the Night, we'll see, to follow up my Order of Ecclesia live stream from a couple months ago. Yeah, so that's pretty much going to do it for me, guys. That's the end of the Let's Play. That's the end of the credits. So this is a good place to wrap things up. So I want to say thanks for watching, guys. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Got a ton of stuff on here in my back catalog for you to check out if you're bored. Also, everyone, just a reminder, a heads up for this month only, I'm going to be doing live streams on Tuesday mornings as well. So I've got the Thursday live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern. For the rest of this month, I'll be doing Tuesday live streams at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So feel free to hang out and check those out. Those are going to be horror-themed streams as well. So we're going to have, you know, we're going to have a lot more content this month, guys. And even if you can't check out the live streams, you know, you can treat them as a Let's Play and, you know, check out the past broadcast later on. So, but yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys soon in probably a couple of days with either a live stream or another playthrough. And until then, take it easy.